everybody, we are live again. It's Wednesday, which means there is another episode of Real Talk with Real Pros. Today we have a great guest. We have Brad Leavitt from AFT Construction joining us in a few minutes. I'm going to just let some other people join here before we get going. Feel free to say hi to everybody, comment below. There's actually a little question box at below as well where you can ask questions to Brad. We've got a handful that we've gotten from some followers already that we'll get into. While we're letting everybody else join, it's a good time for us to just mention a few things for Buildertrend. Obviously, you're following us on our social, but you can also follow our podcast. So I'm going to plug our podcast. We have the Building Code. You can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search Buildertrend or the Building Code. We are coming up on our 100th episode. Brad is on one of those episodes. You can look for him in there. But you go ahead and search Buildertrend or the Building Code, subscribe, have a listen and comment. Let us know if you like the content that we're pushing out there. Looks like Brad's here. I want to let a few more people join. You know, most of the views come after the live session, so we won't wait too long here. But feel free to say hi or ask Brad a question. Brad's got a huge social following. We've known Brad for a few years now. We love the stuff he does down there in Arizona. We're going to just talk to him all about his business and what he's got going on. So let me try to bring him in real quick.
We're here.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How's it going, Paul?
Good. How's everything been?
You know, it's been really good, all things considered, so.
Okay, good. I've been following along. Like I watch your YouTube stuff, which we'll get into, and you're pretty heavy on Instagram, so it feels like I already know what's going on.
Yeah, if you're staying on YouTube or the podcast or Instagram, then you're definitely up to speed. So. Yeah.
Well, why don't we start there? You got a huge social media following. A lot of people we bring on Real Talk, Real Pros and our podcast have that following. You know, some of your friends in the industry, some of the people we are close with, but it's not, a very prevalent thing for a construction company to have a huge following, even though construction is very visual. So it actually fits really well with like Instagram and some of the social media stuff. So can you just talk a little bit about your philosophy behind your social media and how you got there?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny because I agree. I think a lot of contractors don't optimize Instagram. And it's funny as I network with other builders, even here in town or throughout the country, a lot of them are like, I just, I don't know anything about social media or I'm not into Instagram. And
right.
Or they just don't understand how to maybe showcase their business, right? Their processes. And it's a little complicated in some ways. I know some of them are fearful that, there's trolls out there and they might, come after them depending on certain techniques or installs. But I'm a big believer. I mean, what I tell them is, look, part of the process when I start, for me, Paul, it's like being a young entrepreneur. I'd worked and had good experience working for a good firm. And okay, now it's time to take the plunge and start my firm, start my company. Well, I'm competing against some well-seasoned companies here in town throughout Scottsdale and Phoenix, and I felt like social media was a way for me to showcase the quality we put out, the projects we put out, and this was a way for us to, get in front of architects and designers and clients. So that's really where it came up, and I didn't realize how much of an impact it would have and how valuable that is until here we are today.
Right. So at first it was just about building your brand or explaining your brand to people to help you stand out in your area, which I think is a really good place to start. I think there's a lot of intimidation, putting yourself on camera, even you and I, when you were first doing that, I'm sure it wasn't super easy.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out there that'll have opinions about it, but would it be good advice just to jump in and maybe can you give somebody a starting point? Like what types of videos should they do or what types of posts should they have when they're just starting, just to get their feet?
I love that question. And honestly, Paul, I think every company, one thing I tell everyone is you need to have a face or faces behind the brand. And, for me, I run our social media, so it's a little bit easier. Now I'm the principal of the company, owner, and also behind the social media. So the thing is you're able to, even if you're nervous, I was self-conscious, you hear your voice, you see your face on video. Everyone has that same self-conscious, it's just reality of who we are. But the more you do it, I found the more comfortable you get. That's one part of it. But even more, you're building a personality behind the company. So when people reach out to AFT, they know that I'm behind it. They know who we are. They know a lot of our personality. And so what I found is, as now fast forward to today, when I'm meeting with clients, I don't have to sit here and say, here's who we are, here's our brand, here's
Right.
our process. It's really easy because that they've followed that journey. They feel like they know me. So it's really just a matter of, do our personalities align now that we're meeting in person, and does the budget and time frame work? And if those key elements fit, then it's a perfect project, right? And we move forward.
That's great. So now, so every contractor has a qualification stage in the sales process, right? Like you're getting a lot of leads, and like you just said, you need to make sure they're a fit for you, you're a fit for them, budgetary concerns, are the right style. So you're saying social media kind of eliminates a lot of that process, because by the time they get to you, they know who you are, but they're also the right type of client for you as well.
Yeah, and that is a great point, Paul, because if you are building, when you're thinking about your brand, and I won't get into specifics of our strategies, but you do need to think about, well, what's your ideal client, right? What's your ideal project? What's your ideal value, time frame, whatever. And as you start showcasing this, I mean, one of the things for me too, when I talk to my clients, someone will reach out and say, well, Brad, you're building like this incredible trophy home. Like, I'm not this type of client. And I let them know right away that I want to, construction is a tough industry. I want to work with good people. I don't care if you're spending 100,000 or 10 million, it doesn't matter. But, the reality is there's still certain projects though, whether low or high, that are fit for us and some that aren't. And that's where it does help having a consistency of showcasing our residential, our commercial, and some of our project scope, because the customers know, hey, he's doing a hillside build, he's qualified to do my hillside. And that's where it does help vet that a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, one question a lot of business owners would have when they're talking about building a social media presence, having to have a face behind it. Mostly it's them, right? If they're still in the early stages, they're not going to have one of their carpenters or field guys be the face of their social media. So then it comes down to time. And, how much, I don't have time to do this. Can you talk a little bit about the time you spend, and, to get super specific, but, sort of what you're getting in return for that time spent?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So there is no way around it. You're going to have to spend time. And it doesn't mean you have to sit there for an hour straight, but you do. Like, I get on LinkedIn, on Instagram, YouTube. These are platforms that I'm using throughout the day. I'm on maybe 15, 20 times a day. And I'll be honest, I mean, I'm spending on average anywhere from an hour to an hour, 40 minutes a day, 7 days a week, throughout the day though. I mean, I leverage that, with my schedule in between meetings and between conferences, whatever it may be. But you have to do that. And the thing is, the time you put in, and it's so much more than just posting, but it's a network, right? It's like you and I, the friendship we've built, and with Buildertrend, and there's a lot of camaraderie and relationships built behind the screen that are really valuable.
Right, because you just had I want to get into your podcast, but you just recently had something on the podcast. I believe it was Lighting down in Houston, right? And she had, what was her name? Do you remember?
Amy, Amy Margolin.
Amy, she's got a great following, so follow her. Just go find her on Instagram, Lighting Houston. But she had mentioned, I think she said the words like, social media is social. Yeah. Like, you have to respond, you have to comment, you have to like what you put out there. Like, if I post something for Buildertrend or at the Paul Worth, I want everybody to like it. But if I don't start liking anybody else's stuff, that's my interest. And what do I expect, right? And
that is so on point, because it's just like a conversation in a relationship, right? You didn't get out of it what you put in. So if I've had people post the same photo and I will have more comments than they do, but a lot of it's because I'm reciprocating that, right? If I'm getting so many comments, I'm doing that at some point throughout the day. But to the value where people say, I don't have time, and Brad's spending way too much time or whatever, what they need to realize is that now what that's done is we have clients that understand our process, our system, the quality and performance we're putting out there, and they know we're visible, we're out there, we're passionate about it. And so it's actually enhanced our lead generation. It's helped our business development. And so that's why the time vested in, behind the scenes has paid off, in the long run.
Right. So I guess that comes to a point. Probably a good tip would be have a goal. Like, you're not just going to build your social media for ABC Construction just to build it. Have a goal. And if that goal is to save you time, like we talked about during the sales process, so a sales process isn't 30 days, now it's 10 days. That's a good goal. That's worth the time. But then also lead gen, right? And so if you tell your story the right way, people share, and they want to do a project with you. If I was in Houston and I follow Lighting, and I'm going to go buy a light, maybe it's a couple $100. I'm probably going to go there, right? Because I like what they do. And same thing with, a finer touch construction. People are now thinking about you over somebody else. They're not going to Google construction. They're going to go straight to you. And maybe they're not the right fit. Maybe they're not the right price point, but they're going to come to you first. And so that's kind of the investment you're making. But you have a goal, right?
Yeah, and that's really the whole point of it. And I think a lot of customers, at least my experience has been in communicating with them, and not only that, but I mean, as you do studies and see social media, I mean, this stuff's tracked. Companies are tracking social media and the impact because they know that for me, customers are researching who they're going to hire or who they're going to purchase from on social media. I mean, they're seeing this. All of us have smartphones. We're in front of it.
Sure.
And if someone's going to be that prevalent and on social media, well, the pressure's on me as well that I need to perform. If I'm out there, talking about these projects, well, I better perform for my client. And so I think there's some assurance for them when they hire us. They know how committed we are and our team is. And so there are some safeguards there, which can be a tough one to work through, in that business development of construction.
Right. One more thing I want to ask you about content, because you're really good at content. You're obviously focused on it, which is super important. If you go to your YouTube channel, you put out at least 2 videos a week, right? Is that kind of your
That's
goal?
Correct. Yeah. Goal is 2 a week.
Yeah. One's a podcast, and then one's you on site, which I love. And the other great thing about your YouTube videos is you post the equipment you use. So like you are all about like, hey, go do this yourself. You're not scared of competition. You're putting great content out there, which again, kudos to you. But then you've also started a podcast, which is something I know about because I run our podcast,
right?
The Building Code. It feels like every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a podcast, but it's actually not true. I mean, in terms of like construction podcasts, there's only still 100 or a few, a small handful. Your podcast, what's the name of the podcast?
It's the AFT Construction Podcast, with Brad Leavitt.
What I found interesting about that is that it's very it's not just construction. It's not just about look at AFT. It's very much industry focused, but also outside the industry, like entrepreneurially focused. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you're spot on, Paul. So my goal with the podcast, and it's funny how this is morphed because I do want to talk about the advantages of the podcast that I've seen, but my whole goal was to bring value, and that's always been our goal through media, right? Is through media, whether it be YouTube, podcasting, Instagram, bring value to the industry because I feel that it doesn't matter. Like the reality is there's a lot of competition out there, but they're not us and we have our process. And if we can make everyone better, that's going to be better for our clients in the long run. But going back to the podcast. So what I've found is I do have a lot of guests, male, female, inside of construction, design, architecture, but I've also had the CEO of Traeger Grills, Stan Stocks and, John Brink is from Sports Science, on ESPN. And the reason I do that is because I feel that as a business owner, it doesn't matter if you're in construction, it doesn't matter if you're a designer, architect, there's a lot of value that people, when they talk about company culture or they talk about hiring or they talk about forecasting or marketing or social media. And so these are experts that have a lot of advice outside of our market. And what I found is, this is a 1 hour that I get one-on-one with these amazing, talented individuals that have so much to offer. And after every podcast, I come away with 5 or 6 notes where I'm like, I need to apply that to my company and my firm. In fact, we're going to be launching a YouTube video today, and Matt Reisinger, who's another ambassador of Buildertrend as I am. So Matt came on and he had a snippet. We were talking about cost plus and working out with clients, and I'm just going to dangle that carrot so all of you go to the YouTube channel. But we actually, he shared something that from that point forward is something that I started doing, and I would have never done that had I not been on the podcast with him.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and that's great because it's kind of like it's like a dual sword. You're creating content for you to push out there to promote AFT and sort of elevate the industry or any entrepreneur or business. But then you're also going to class every week. Like you're gaining
free education. Yeah,
it's like a consultant. You're bringing on consultants every week. So good for you. I'm going to take a little page out of that. That's a good idea. But
it's funny. I've applied so many things. I had Jeremy on with Traeger, who's the CEO of Traeger Grills, and I love my Traeger, but Jeremy comes on and he shares some things about company culture, and immediately like we optimize some of the things he said. And it's funny how, even after this conversation, Paul, you'll share something, I'll jot it down. And, this is something that because we're always trying, look, we're not who we are today. But we know where we're going and we're going to get there. And, it's a process. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, one thing that you and Matt and Nick from NS Builders, who are all very popular in the industry, share is this idea of getting away from being afraid to share how you do things as AFT construction. I mean, I think for so long, construction companies are like, well, the way I frame or the way I bid or the way I estimate, the way I do this, if somebody else finds out about that, I'll lose my business, right? Like it's my secret. It feels like the three of you and you especially are like, you're okay just saying, here's our process. Here's how you can save money on a custom home, or here's how I estimate. Is that your philosophy, first of all? And like, you're okay sharing it to lift the whole industry, or has there ever been any negatives to that?
You know, that's a great question. It's funny because I do have other builders and they're like, Brad, I'm utilizing this now because you've showed me. And then these are some of my competitors in my area.
Right.
So there are some things there where I'm like, well, you know, I'm kind of giving that away, but that's okay. The reality is, you know, if we can all be better, like, and build better homes, and that's kind of the philosophy there, there's always room at the top, right? You can always, you know, we can always build that. But going back to that, Paul, I mean, here's the thing, like when you're in commercial construction and we do commercial, right? And I'll give one example, like pool plan meetings. These are when you bring in all of the front end, you know, trade partners, and you're coordinating the schedules, especially if you're going vertical on a hotel. And these are very complicated builds with tight time frames, you know, and there's litigated damages on the other side. Why not bring that into residential? Why not share in our industry how we're doing that, how we can build quicker? Because I can tell you one thing, you know, my framer may work for other GCs. So if he's building faster, that's going to free him up for me too. So there are some advantages that if I'm more efficient, that'll allow our subcontractors to be efficient, which makes clients happy, which now helps the industry as a whole, especially now where you have, you know, shortage of labor.
Right, shortage of labor. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. No matter what, if you raise the standard of what we do as an industry, you're going to benefit in one way or another from that.
For sure, always, yeah.
And I think there's a ton of green space there. I mean, I think, you know, we as Buildertrend, we love the residential construction industry. We love small businesses. But, you know, to be fair, there's a lot of improvement there for business operations and business acumen and operations, or just systems in general, which obviously Buildertrend does. So, and I think the whole industry gains when you start doing those.
It does. And the camaraderie, and it's funny because going back to the social media, as you mentioned, that Amy shared, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of amazing people, some of them have already commented on here, but these are friendships I've made with people that have affected my business, where I can go to them, suppliers, you know, manufacturers, or even other fellow builders, you know, Nick and Matt, who I network with a lot, and Johnny, you know, we're all Buildertrend fans, and we network with you guys. But we share contracts, we share information, and this has helped our business, you know, be more efficient.
Yeah, you know, when I first started, you know, obviously with Buildertrend and tech, but inside the construction industry, there are these Builder 20 groups, right? They're very popular, and they still are. They are great. And there's a lot of great groups out there. Essentially, one, you know, just to kind of end cap the social media conversation, is like another huge benefit is you're basically creating your own virtual consulting group. There's this group of like-minded construction companies where you can share all kinds of things, just like you said, right?
Yeah, and so I am part of a Builder 20 group, and what's great about that is we do have that individualized network where we're diving into financials and other things to help our business. But what social media has done is I recommend both, because social media is an accelerator where now I have more exposure to other people that are way outside of that network of my Builder 20 and different markets than my Builder 20, and have different experiences in different building sizes, you know, maybe a remodeler or a commercial company yeah, social media is just such a good connector for that.
That's awesome. So let's talk about AFT. So Finer Touch Construction, we're going into 2021. You know, it was a weird year, obviously. You know, what's so interesting is that it was so scary for us in construction, April, May.
Right.
But, you know, coming on the other end of it, you know, construction's never been stronger, which is great. And we definitely know there's other industries out there that are still hurting, and, you know, we definitely feel for them. But as you look to 2021 for you and your business, you know, what do you have planned? What are you as busy as most construction companies are right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we fortunately are very grateful. We're tremendously busy. We have some amazing clients, some amazing projects, which we can dive into later. But the reality is, you know, what I see in 2021 as well is not only some amazing projects, but we're starting to see how COVID, especially these last 9 months, has impacted the architecture and design. I mean, you know, we have clients now where they're working professionals, they're working from home, maybe a husband and wife both work, now they both need an office. You have kids at home, you better make sure your Wi-Fi is up to speed, right? For everyone at home, we have clients putting in cold plunges and hot, and saunas and gyms because the gyms are closed. And so if it happens again, they want to have that access and healthy lifestyle. And so we're really seeing from the remodel and new build how now the home is very catered to not wasted square footage and how it caters to lifestyle, especially as it's been COVID and health. I mean, touchless faucets, right? Self-cleaning toilets. I mean, these are things that are really important to our clients that we're looking at now.
Well, that's a great way to put it. So everybody talks about, examples of how remodeling or designs changed or the needs for clients have changed. But the way you just put that, I think was great. It's no longer, the importance has shifted from square footage to, what'd you say, like lifestyle?
Necessity, lifestyle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. So projects you have, I know on your YouTube, you have the 2021 home, net zero home. Can you talk about that project a little bit, how that came to be and why you're excited about it?
Yeah, I'm super excited. We have a few signature projects on deck. So for anyone listening, make sure you check out our YouTube and Instagram because you're going to see some amazing projects here in next year. But going back to, so 2021 is the home of the year, and this is a net zero home, and our client is actually a building science expert. He speaks all over the country, and they're building here in Scottsdale. And one of the requirements when they were interviewing builders, they wanted a builder that was active in social media. They wanted a builder that had an ability to showcase some of the details of this home because the client is very involved and wants to show the industry some of the building science techniques that go into a net zero build. And so, we lined up with that, and we're going to be doing a lot of YouTube content with our client on this build. So we're going to showcase the entire home, all this, I don't want to say secrets, but all of the behind the scenes to window flashing, to insulation, to concrete, to ICF. I mean, all these things we're doing. Matt Reisinger is going to come up. We're going to do a few videos with him, and it's going to be a really fun project. So yeah, we're very excited about that one.
That's awesome. So what's net zero again, just for everybody who doesn't know?
Great question. So really net zero, and there's two definitions. So net zero is essentially you're going to produce as much energy as you consume. So you're essentially off the grid. And there's a couple ways you can look at the full year. So the full year, I'm going to use X amount of energy throughout the year, but I'm going to produce Y to offset that. Mm-hmm. Or net zero could be a daily, like however much you use today, I'm going to, earn today or supply today. Being in Phoenix, it's one of those markets where it's very hot in the summer, right? As most people realize, and we have a lot of glass. It's a modern home. So this will be a yearly net zero, delta, which is good. It's going to be a true net zero, but it'll be based off the year. And triple pane windows and, the way we're going to be doing the structure and the SIPs trusses, it's going to be a fun one to follow.
So they're going to be doing their own solar power?
Yeah,
is that all that kind of
correct
stuff?
So we'll have solar, in fact, and a step further, not only will we have own solar power, which we can optimize and use, but we're also going to have some water storage tanks, not for the drinking potable water of the house, but for the landscape. So for the irrigation. So a lot of when we do get rain here in Arizona in the monsoons, we're going to capture that water, use that for the landscaping. So then that way it's a very low impact and sustainable home here in the desert. Perfect.
That's cool. So you were talking about commercial projects, and I know that's not easy for a company who's grown in residential. Maybe you didn't grow. I know you were a project manager for maybe was it a national home builder or?
Well, it was a large company here in Scottsdale. Well, they're based in Scottsdale and Dallas, so a large commercial and residential builder.
Okay, so you came from there a little bit with that. But so can you talk to a residential company about what are some of the challenges moving into commercial? And what are some of the projects commercially you've done that you're excited about or that are coming up?
No, great question. So it's a totally different mindset. I mean, the thing you have to understand is that with commercial, like we have a whole different subcontractor base, trade partner base, and commercial as residential. In commercial, you're dealing with metal framing, you're dealing with different mechanical. We've done restaurants and breweries because it.
I think we lost you. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're back. No worries. So like a phone call or something that happens.
Yeah, it's a phone call. I don't know how I was trying to get out of that. So sorry about that. So, but going back to that mentality. So when you're dealing with the commercial, if you're doing a restaurant and brewery, as I mentioned, as we've done restaurants, you're dealing with a health inspector. The codes are different. The building codes are so much different. The time frame's different because residential, look, right, wrong, or indifferent, we should build more efficiently and faster, but typically there's not litigated or liquidated damages. You know, there's not clauses if we don't hit timelines.
Right.
But in the commercial side, if I don't finish this restaurant, this is revenue, right, that they're missing. If I
Right.
don't finish this hotel or clubhouse, and so the speed, the time frame, the coordination is very different. So you must make sure you understand the building codes, the subcontractor base, the scopes of work. Fortunately, I've had a lot of experience in both. My team has, and so we have a department that does commercial and one that does residential.
Oh, so you have separate departments internally as well as sub networks and all of that.
We do, and essentially, I do have some hybrids in the sense where I do have some coordinators that can coordinate both, and I have some superintendents that have done both. They could do a custom home and they could run a restaurant, and so that's really great to have, you know, in our system and in our back pocket there.
Yeah. Well, you have any cool commercial projects coming up here in 2021?
We do. So we finished some amazing offices here in town, and some A grade offices. Starting early next year, we're going to be, and we just finished a shopping center. There's a shopping center that needed a huge facelift. There's this old Adobe Southwest style that we made super modern. So now we have this amazing condo complex, and they're building a whole new clubhouse, fitness center, entertaining area for the residents there. So we're in design right now. So that'll be early next year. And we're also working with a med spa company doing a lot of their locations for med spas here in town. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Okay, we had a couple questions before this. Let me pull them up here. So this one is from Ben Horning at BHDB_Ben. It's a pretty broad question, but I think it'd be good to hear for somebody who's been successful like you to answer this. How do you define success? And maybe you can talk about that when you started. How did you define the success, and how do you define it today?
Well, that's a good question. I can take this a few different ways, but yeah. I view success very different than most. I don't view success on a financial standpoint. I don't view it on maybe the house you live in or the revenue of your company. I view success as far as happiness. Like, you know, do you have good work-life balance? Are you able to work a good day? Are you able to take your staff out? Are you able to spend time with your children or your family if you have that? And so for me, I see success as, when we first started, I don't view that we had success. Part of it was because we didn't have the Rolodex of work or employment, but not only that, it's just there wasn't good work-life balance. Where I feel today, as a company, we've built that company culture. We have people that love the brand. They love being here. You know, they love being a part of AFT and what we're doing. And so I feel like having a good company culture and having that work-life balance is now successful for us. And that's important to me and to our staff.
That's awesome. And I know you have a bunch of kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 6 kids, so it's busy.
Kids.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family with 6 kids, so I
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's important for you to get home, you know, spend time with kids, that kind of thing.
It is. You know, yesterday I walk in the door and the kids want to go jump on the trampoline with dad and wear me out. So yeah, it's you know, try to take them to school when I can, pick them up, you know, and still work through business. So it's always busy.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. That's a great answer. Okay, another question from Greenside_design_build. So Greenside Design Build. The question is, did you plan for fast growth, or was it more of just winging it? So it's kind of a tail end of that last question, but was growth in your plans?
No, I think growth has to be in your plans. You have to understand. So for me, and it's funny that, you know, you have to have a vision as a company. I knew when we started where we wanted to be. I wanted to be where we are today. You know, some of these amazing custom homes we're building and commercial projects, but I couldn't get those on my first day, right? As I started our company. So I was doing a kitchen remodel, I was doing a bathroom, whatever I could do to start building the brand and marketing until I could get to where I had the experience and credibility. So that vision was in line. And so there was a goal there, but it takes time. I couldn't hire the right people. Well, not the right people. There are certain people, right? You can't grow too fast. You have to hire conservatively and make sure the revenue is there. You know, cash flow is important. So there is strategy to when you hire, there's strategy to training, and then there's strategy to the end goal of where you want to be.
So you have to. So the answer is you can't just wing it. You know,
no, you cannot.
Whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, have that goal and focus on it.
No, and I met a builder a while ago, and he's in a different line of work of his construction business. He's like, Brad, I want to be what you are, but it's like, well, do you really want to be there? Do you understand what that takes? I mean, do you understand that scope of work and that? And so you can't just wing it and say, I just want to go from remodeling to custom homes. I mean, there has to be a strategy.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, a couple more questions. One's from Shay underscore SEGEV1. He or she asked one before, which is, it's not a plug for Buildertrend, but it's basically, what are your systems for successful construction project?
No, I love it. So Buildertrend, we're on Buildertrend. We're going to talk about that. We've been using Buildertrend for 3 years now, and our team is incredibly efficient with Buildertrend. We use it every day. I mean, for us, every day they're updating the daily logs, which is one of my favorite aspects. I've actually spoken about that. And the reason being is because I go back now when I have my tile or framer saying, hey, we've been there every day, and I can go in the daily logs every day. And this is a commercial mindset. In commercial, this is very common to do this, and I love that you have this on Buildertrend.
Yeah.
So I can go back and I can see the photos of what was done. I can see that only 2 guys were there for 3 hours that day. And so not only it's a good quality check for us, and also my coordinators in the office can't get to every project, so they can keep up to speed with, you know, the owner portal and, you know, all the information that we're putting out there and tracking, and the digital. Our guys have iPads in the field, and they're using Buildertrend for all the documentation and design books. So Buildertrend is a huge resource for us.
That's awesome. You know, one thing we talk about, you know, I might have talked about with you or somebody else, but, you know, people come to you because they want, you know, if I'm a client, I want to deal with Brad, right? Like you're the name, you're the face, you're the name, you're the celebrity. That's probably unrealistic, right? For you to be 100 places at once. But when you do meet with your clients throughout like the build process, I got to believe you're going to the data logs and scrolling through like the last few weeks or months and going, okay, I'm going to get up to speed on where we're at. So it feels like the client that I know everything about what's going on.
100%. So that's the key. Because, so if I didn't have Buildertrend, I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, I can't be running every project. I can't be in the field. Right. It's a great way to keep that communication with the clients and the team, especially with my out-of-town clients. And it's a great resource because I can keep tabs on everything going on you know, behind the scenes. Yeah,
that's perfect. All right, so follow-up question from Shay. I think we answered this, but house be able to self-sustain itself energy-wise?
Yeah, it will. So that's the whole goal, is that it can produce enough solar. You have solar walls, backup generators that store the energy, that use it. And then the way the construction types, you're not really using a lot. You don't have a lot of energy loss. So you don't have to worry as much about how much you're capturing because the energy loss is minimal.
That's awesome. Okay, question here from Ingrid Green. Thank you, Ingrid, for asking. How does technology intersect well with construction? I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel that construction's always been behind. For whatever reason, you know, our industry, and a lot of it's because it's a lot of women install hand labor, right?
Right.
But if you're not using technology, whether it be social media, whether it be Buildertrend, whether it be other software, iPads, I mean, you know, and even going a step further, you know, some of the automation stuff we're doing with Crestron and Lutron for the convenience of the client. I mean, if you're not up to speed on this stuff, it's going to pass you by, and you can build more efficiently. We found that we're a lot more efficient today because of the technology resources we have behind us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in all of the major industries, I think there's 11 or 12 constructions second to the last in terms of tech adoption. Obviously, that's something that's we're very passionate about at Buildertrend, but I think it's one of those things that also raises all ships. You know, if we get everybody on construction or technology where they have a business process, you know, whether it's scheduling and project management or HR, hiring, or just communication with their clients, like there's just so many things that technology can help you streamline. So super important there.
Absolutely.
And follow-up question, again, this is a great question. Where are you seeing trades embrace technology? And I'll box this in with what we see, which is, you know, with Buildertrend, Brad and AFT, you guys sign up for Buildertrend and you invite in all your trades and vendors. And they can participate as much as they'd like, right? They can just get notifications sent to them, or they can log in and, like, you know, ask you questions and be a part of it. I guess to back up that question, are you seeing trades embrace technology like Buildertrend, or are we still a ways away from that?
We're getting there. You know, there's some work. You know, we still have some subs that don't use their email, right? So,
right.
But a majority of them, I would say a vast majority, 80% of ours are active and they use Buildertrend, and especially the scheduling aspect. When we're building our schedules on Buildertrend and we're doing an update, maybe there's a rain day, maybe there's a delay for cabinet delivery, whatever it may be, the trades now get the notifications, text and email.
Perfect.
And they're using that because they're living off that, because they know that we're trying to be as accurate as we can with our pool plan meetings and schedule. And so Buildertrend is good, and they're utilizing that because they know we are. And so they better be behind it, or else they're going to miss something. And then they'll have me calling them. So
yeah, that's great. Well, we're always trying to get the subs and trades into it more. Third question from Ingrid. Again, appreciate that. What is your favorite Buildertrend improvement, and which need do you wish the platform would address? Great question. Are there things that a project management sort of business operation platform like Buildertrend is not addressing right now that would be a good sort of thing for us to do?
That's a good question. I love so many features, from the cloud-based to the media side to the documentation. I mean, all that's so great for us. You know, one thing I would say, our weakness, just being open, we utilize nearly all of Buildertrend every day for all of our team. The estimating side is something we're trying to figure out how to better optimize from Bluebeam takeoffs we do, and then integrating that and understanding the estimating with how we do that process. But this is kind of unique to how we bid a project that is kind of a one-off. So but yeah.
Estimating. So that great. I appreciate you saying that, because we're actually finishing up a total revamp of our estimating tool. It's slated to come out. Product's going to kill me, but late this quarter. So
awesome.
Q4 or Q1. So be on the lookout for that for Buildertrend users. And if you have any suggestions, do not be shy. You know, just like what you said, Brad, when you interview people, you learn things. When we hear from our clients, we learn where we need to be. So that's something we absolutely want. So get into Buildertrend. You'll find user voice in your setup tab, and feel free just to comment and tell us where we need to be better. So we appreciate that. A couple more questions, and we'll let you get on with your day, Brad. We really appreciate the time. You know, it's always great to have a celebrity here in the industry.
You have the wrong one.
So this one's interesting, because I think I heard you mention something about cement. Maybe it was with a vendor shortage, or maybe something that COVID had done. I don't know where I heard that from you. But this is the question: what's the best tips to start a cement company next year?
You know, first off, you better understand your supply chain, right? As we mentioned, Portland cement's been back ordered, and we're having delays with concrete. I think the best thing with any company, and it doesn't matter if it's specifically concrete, but you have to understand your supply chain, because as an installer, you have to understand that aspect of it and what they're dealing with and what they're forecasting and pricing, because this stuff's moving. If you're starting a framing company, you better understand lumber, because it's changing every day, up and down. So you have to understand that. You have to have good estimating software in place. You have to understand your manpower. Hopefully, if you're starting a company, you've had experience working to understand at least some of a database to track cost, which is something we analyze. So I look at my company, we're tracking every day our job costing, how much it's costing us for every project, manpower, time, commitment, and then we can apply that for future, you know, jobs as we're bidding. So make sure you're tracking that, understand supply chain, and then of course marketing. Understand where those job leads, that lead generation is so important. So understand how to market your business.
Okay, good stuff. Love that. Last one. What do you consider the biggest challenge in trying to become a builder? And you know, we just talked about that a lot. Like those are some great tips, but maybe just talk about that even on a higher level. What's the biggest challenge in starting your own business?
I would say under setting expectations, the hardest thing that we deal with even today, even as refined as our systems are now, as opposed to 8 years ago, is how do we correctly communicate expectations and set those with clients? You know, that way at the end of the project, it's a very positive, healthy relationship. We're still friends. We're in line to build their next home someday, you know, as well as your staff. Like, what systems do you have in line? Because if you don't empower your team, if they don't have a vision where they feel they can grow in their position, or they feel that they have the support, they're not just kicked off the pier to drown, right? And so you have to understand the systems for the client, the systems for the staff and the team. And if you have those two in line, I think that's the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity for success as a company.
Right, and that challenge will always be there. You always got to keep getting better at both those things. So that's great. All right, Brad, well, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us today. Again, you can follow Brad and AFT Construction on all social media platforms. Just search for him. I spent a lot of time on YouTube over the last couple of weeks listening to Brad, so I highly recommend that stuff. You have some great content there. So just kudos to you for all you're doing with content in construction. Really appreciate it, and go give him a follow, and we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for being a great partner, Paul. I mean, we love Buildertrend, so thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy your week.
Okay, talk soon.